Please set in a comfortable meditation posture. Close the eyes. Put your attention on that silence that's always there deep in the mind. Connect with that inner silence. Feel that beautiful, blissful, eternal now. Become that silence. Now listen to the words of the Yoga Vasishta, Chapter 5 in Book 5, continuing with verse 5. The understanding of the sinless, enlightened by the light of the scriptures, or improved in the society of men by good conduct, become as far-sighted as the blazing light of a torch. By one's own analysis, one should try to know the soul in himself. He who does not know the knowable soul in himself is in no way intelligent. Intelligent, polite, wise, and noble men are said to have a mixed nature of goodness and action in them. Rajas Sattva. The best example of such a nature is found, O Ram, in your admirable disposition. Let the intelligence look into the phenomena of the work. And by observing what is true and untrue, attach themselves only to the truth. That which was not before and will not be at the end is no reality at all. But what continues in being both at first and last in true existence and nothing else, that is the reality. That is the silent witness. He whose mind is attached to what is not truth, what is unreal, both at first and at last, is either an infatuated fool or a brute animal that can never be brought to reason. The mind stretches out in the world in its imagination. Upon a closer investigation, The mind is in nothingness. Ram said, I am fully persuaded to believe, sage, that the mind is the active agent in this world. And is subject to decay and death. But tell me, sage, what are the surest means of guarding the mind from illusions? Because only you are the sun to remove the darkness of Raghu's rays. Vashishta replied, the best way to guard the mind from delusion is first the knowledge of the scriptures. The knowledge of the scriptures constitute the divine karmic traces. And point to the silent witness. Next is the exercise of dispassion. Not allowing your attention or your mind to repeatedly engage in thinking. Thinking is a habit. It is fueled by the activity of the individual karmic traces. The dialogue that goes on in the mind, however, is essentially habit. We are habituated to thinking. When we think, we feel we exist. We feel we are alive. I think, therefore I am. That is, of course, a complete fallacy, pure ignorance. But when deluded by the activity of individual karmic traces, it seems the natural way of things. Just as when we're in meditation and thoughts arise, we can allow our mind to engage in those thoughts and chase those thoughts around. Speculate on how marvelous that thought is, or how stupid that thought is, or what does that mean? Or maybe it's a download from the gods. But we know that the very, very basic instruction in meditation, ignore all thoughts that arise in the mind during meditation. The reason we have this instruction is to show us that we can literally stop thinking if we want to. When we get into the habit of ignoring all thoughts that arise during meditation, what we find is thoughts stop arising. We find ourselves in a thoughtless state. As we advance in meditation, thoughts are not necessary. They're not necessary during meditation. And they're not necessary outside of meditation. Some would say, but how do you plan something? The answer, of course, is you don't plan anything. You simply be. You simply witness. And you let the automatic processes of the individual and the divine karmic traces do everything. So that is a very important understanding. We do not have to think. It's not that we force our mind to be silent. We don't force anything. We don't do anything. We simply be. And when we find ourselves in that state of being, that is the eternal now. And the mind does not need to think. The mind thinks it needs to think because if it doesn't think, it doesn't exist. And that's right. The mind is the biggest illusion of all. It never has existed. It is not there. It is pure illusion. It has no more existence than a mirage. Only when we allow ourselves to engage with the mind's thinking does it appear to exist. Just withdraw that permission. Your natural state is non-existence. Existence means to stand out. To be separate. To be a wave on the ocean. We don't have to be a wave on the ocean. And in being a wave on the ocean, we subject ourselves to the misery of the illusion. This is dispassion. Being established in the silent witness. So first we have knowledge of the scriptures as the first step in the best way to guard against delusion. Then dispassion, withdraw all energy from the process of thinking. Allow yourself to be in the silent witness as the silent witness. And the amazing thing is, life goes on. The body continues to act. And it acts surprisingly intelligently. when allowed to act from the basis of the divine karmic traces. When it acts, it is supporting to all life. It is loving, kind, compassionate, generous. It is never acting out of profit. It has no motive to act. This act in the mode of dispassion is just a natural occurrence. So these are two very important ways to step out of the delusion and into the light. The third important way is the company of the good. When you come into the company of the good, in the community of those who are enlightened, it holds you up. It keeps you from slipping back into the delusion. Always the individual karmic traces are there. Always the ego is there. And the ego becomes more and more intelligent and crafty and capable the closer one gets to the higher levels of moksha. The only thing that allows the ego to operate is our addiction to thinking. So give it up. Not necessary. With these three things, we have all we need. This is the essence of achieving the highest state of moksha in this universe, which is moksha level 4, Brahman consciousness. These three things: knowledge of the scriptures, exercise of dispassion, and the company of the enlightened are the boat that carries you across into the field of purity, into the field of the eternal now of the silent witness. The mind filled with humility and holiness should have recourse to teachers who are learned in philosophy. Such an important quality, humility. What do you really know? Someone who knows everything knows nothing. Someone who knows nothing has become everything. The instruction of such teachers makes a person practice first is sadhana, meditation, engaging in the practices that balance karmic traces, both individual and divine karmic traces, must be balanced. And this sadhana gradually leads the mind to the abstract meditation of the silent witness. When the mind comes to perceive by its own thoughts the presence of the silent witness in itself, it sees the universe spread before it like cooling moonbeam. A man is tossed about like straw, floating on the wide ocean of the world, until he finds his rest in the still waters under the coast of reason. Human understanding comes to know the truth when it puts down all its difficulties by means of its reasoning. Just as pure water passes over the sandy bed, the reasonable man distinguishes truth from untruth, like a goldsmith separating gold from ashes. But the unreasonable are like the ignorant, incapable of distinguishing one from the other. The silent witness is imperishable. Once it is known to the human soul, error can have no access to the soul as long as it is enlightened by the light of the divine spirit. A mind ignorant of truth is ever liable to error. But when acquainted with truth, it becomes free from its doubts and is set beyond the reach of error. O you men who are not acquainted with the silent witness, you bear your souls only for your own misery. But knowing the silent witness, you become entitled to eternal happiness and tranquility. How you are lost to your soul by blending with your body. Expand the soul from under the earthly frame, and you will be quite at rest with yourself. Your immortal soul has no radiance or relationship to your mortal bodies. Just as pure gold bears no relation to the earthen crucible in which it is contained. The silent witness is distinct from the living soul, just as the lotus flower is separate from the water which upholds it. and like a drop of water is unattached to the lotus leaf on which it rests. My living soul is crying to that spirit with my arms uplifted, but it pays no heed to my cries. Continuing now as the silent witness, we start the process of Trimanasana on the esoteric Mahamantra, connecting us to the deepest level of the silent witness, which is Krishna, the consciousness of Krishna. We are that consciousness. And by directing our attention in that supreme direction, all karmic traces that have been enlivened by today's reading will be balanced. to adapt.